is safer without Saddam Hussein.
The president just talked about Iraq as a center of the war on terror. Iraq was not even close to the center of the war on terror before the president invaded it.
Tonight, sparks fly as the University of Miami makes history hosting the presidential debate. And you're looking live now at the UM Convocation Center. President Bush and Senator John Kerry just wrapping up their first of 3 scheduled debates. Just a short time ago, we saw one of the motorcades just pass by. Good evening. I'm Rob Hanrahan.
And I'm Maggie Rodriguez. On this historic night, we are live at the University of Miami, and we have a team of reporters covering every angle for you, from the debate to the parties afterwards to the undecided voters who will decide this election. We kick things off tonight with CBS 4's Gary Nelson. He is outside the Convocation Center. Gary, take it away.
Well, this debate tonight was on the topic of foreign policy, but it had almost everything to do with Iraq. The focus almost entirely tonight on the war in Iraq. This debate ending just a short while ago. We can show you now live pictures, I'm being told, of President Bush at a rally, apparently, for Mel Martinez here in South Florida, a Republican who the Republican Party is looking to send to the United States Senate. In this debate tonight, the war on Iraq front and center. John Kerry accusing President Bush of having rushed headlong into an ill-advised war, leaving our allies behind and over our allies' objections. The president saying John Kerry is sending a message of weakness and the wrong message to our men and women in Iraq.
Good evening from the University of Miami Convocation Center in Coral Gables, Florida.
The world watched our town tonight. George Bush and John Kerry shook hands at center stage and came out swinging. This foreign policy debate focusing almost entirely on one country, the war in Iraq. Kerry saying Bush has isolated America with an ill-advised go-it-alone war.
I'll never give a veto to any country over our security, but I also know how to lead those alliances. This president has left them in shatters across the globe, and we're now 90% of the casualties in Iraq.
In Iraq, we saw a threat, and we realized that after September the 11th, we must take threats seriously before they fully materialize. Saddam Hussein now sits in a prison cell. America and the world are safer for it.
Kerry said Bush rushed to war relying on bad information. Bush countered Kerry was on board and has flip-flopped.
He also promised America that he would go to war as a last resort. Those words mean something to me as somebody who's been in combat. Last resort. You got to be able to look in the eyes of families and say to those parents, I tried to do everything in my power to prevent the loss of your son and daughter.
My opponent looked at the same intelligence I looked at and declared in 2002 that Saddam Hussein was a grave threat. He also said in December of 2003 that anyone who doubts that the world is safer without Saddam Hussein does not have the judgment to be president. I agree with him.
The president said what he sees as Kerry's shifting positions on Iraq does a disservice to U.S. interests and U.S. troops.
I don't see how you can lead this country to succeed in Iraq if you say wrong war, wrong time, wrong place. What message does that send our troops?
Kerry accused Bush of having blinders on to the deteriorating situation in Iraq.
This president I don't know if he sees what's really happening on there, but it's getting worse by the day. More soldiers killed in June than before.
And it's hard work. I understand how hard it is. I get the casualty reports every day. I see on the TV screens how hard it is. But it's necessary work.
Kerry said he has a credible plan to win back our allies and resolve the war in Iraq. Bush said he would not succumb to weakness, predicting victory in Iraq and in November. President Bush left this debate hall tonight, went directly to a rally of his supporters in Coconut Grove. Let's listen to a bit of what he's having to say there live now.
Senator Mel Martinez. Can't hear you.
Well, there the president is at that rally of supporters. Mel Martinez, the Republican candidate for the United States Senate, playing quite the role there as the president attempts to extend some coattail help to Martinez in that U.S. Senate race against the Democrat Betty Castor, former education commissioner of Florida. Now, in this debate tonight, both the president and Senator John Kerry were civil. It was a spirited debate, but there was no ugliness at any turn along the way. Both candidates abiding by the rules, not directly addressing or questioning each other. The president calling the senator my opponent. The senator often referring to the president as he made reference to President Bush. They said coming in, many of the pundits, the observers, those who handicap such things, that if George Bush could manage not to, quote, screw up, was the words used by one analyst tonight, that he would come away the de facto winner, being the incumbent and all. It would appear there was no obvious gaffe. John Kerry obviously hammered home some meaningful points. We will see how it all plays out in these next few weeks coming up to Election Day. For now, we're live at the University of Miami in Coral Gables. Gary Nelson, CBS 4 News Tonight.
As you saw there, the candidates were whisked away very quickly after the debate, but behind us you can see the audience members still filing out. They are among a select few who got to be inside the Convocation Center and really get a sense for what it was like.
There are many small nuances that you'll see from these candidates when you're in the exact same room with them rather than watching it on television. Our own Elliot Rodriguez got the ticket inside tonight. He joins us now with more. Elliot, your thoughts?
Well, that's right, Rob and Maggie. Most of the media was outside the Convocation Center for this debate, but thanks to this ticket, I was able to be inside for the 90-minute face-off between President Bush and John Kerry. And I can tell you, first of all, that this was an event that was meant to be seen on television. Inside the Convocation Center, the overwhelming feeling, I can tell you right now, it was extremely cold. I was told the temperature was to be set at 50 degrees. It felt much colder. People were in there shivering throughout this debate, and at the end, people were standing by the door waiting to get out. That was one of the conditions that the two sides imposed, was that the temperature would remain cool, of course, with the television lights. They did not want to run the risk of anybody sweating, as in the Richard Nixon debate against John F. Kennedy in 1960. There were 500 seats on the floor of the Convocation Center, divided between the two campaigns. There were also a few, I would say about 200 people who sat in some of the stands of the basketball arena. That's where I was. There were many University of Miami students there who told me that they are now all registered to vote. They are involved in politics and are interested in this debate. And that's what Donna Shalala, the president of the University of Miami, who worked so hard to get this debate here, said she was most interested in getting young people interested in politics. Now, early on, the audience was warned by the moderator, Jim Lehrer, that we were not going to be the center of attention here. The lights were turned off. We were admonished. There would be no sort of applauding, no sort of sounds that were to be made once this debate started. And once the two candidates got on there, that's what happened. The lights went down. There was some applause at the beginning and some applause at the end. But throughout the 90 minutes, the audience listened to this debate. Very evenly divided, I would say, the people who were in the audience between Bush supporters and Kerry supporters. But again, this was an event that was meant to be seen on television. Back to you guys.
Elliot, on television, though, we mostly saw shots from the waist up. We didn't get to see the full picture a lot of the time. Is there anything that we may have missed as far as body language that you think was important?
Well, you know, there was a lot of talk about what the networks could and could not show. Could they show cutaway shots? And the networks did not agree to that. And I'm sure you saw on the monitors that we were able to see cutaway shots. What you saw on television is what happened. John Kerry was there. The president next to him. Probably the most applause in the audience was Mrs. Kerry was up there, and also when she came up to First Lady Laura Bush, there was some warmth there, and there was some interaction there between the two families that maybe that did not come across on camera, but basically this was a program meant to be seen by viewers on TV, and what you saw was what went down here at the Convocation Center. The people who watch the debate